This
Good morning,
conference will
students.
now be recorded.
Good morning, students. Today we are going to start bones and joints. Bones and joints. What? Okay. We know that there are 206 bones in human body, and this is the bone with the marrow component here. Okay. So, what are the main functions of the bone, which include mechanical support, transmission of the forces which are generated by the muscles, protection of the viscera, mineral homeostasis, providing a niche for support of the blood. So you can see this is the main bone which is being transformed into the spongiotic part. Okay, here the mineralization takes place. This is the bone which is being hypertrophied, followed by mineralization and spongiosis. Okay, you have two types of bones which are lamellar and woven bones, which I will show you. Woven bone is immature bone actually. Bone matrix is an extracellular component of the bone, which is composed of mainly the organic matter, which is known as osteoid, which is comprising of 35%, and the mineral component is comprising of 65%. Osteoid is mainly made up of type 1 collagen with smaller amounts of glycosaminoglycans and other proteins, which are grouped according to their function. The cells of the bone are osteoprogenitor, which is the stem cell from which the other cells arise. They are osteoblasts, which themselves convert into osteocytes, and other cells are osteoclasts. Osteoblasts are mainly they control the calcium levels. They mineralize the bone, which is taking up the blood calcium and putting into the bone. Actually, the main function. They later on get transformed into osteocytes, which also bind to the calcium and help in maintaining it. Osteoclasts are a different type which are under the control of parathyroid hormone, and they try to lyse the bone and release the calcium into the blood. Whenever there is hypocalcemia, osteoclasts are increased in number and they try to lyse the bone and release the bone calcium into the serum. You can see here nicely, this is an immature bone which is lined by osteoblasts here. Okay, they're trying to make up, sorry, trying to make up the bone. These are all osteoblasts. The inner surface is the woven bone, which is structureless actually. But here we are seeing nicely lamellated bone, okay, in layers and scattered osteocytes. Okay, so this is an immature bone. This is a mature bone surrounded by the stroma. The proteins of the bone are type 1 collagen, which is of 90%. Other smaller parts are cell adhesion proteins, calcium binding proteins, proteins involved in mineralization, enzymes, growth factors, mainly growth factor 1, TGF beta, and platelet derived growth factors. The cytokines mainly involved here are prostaglandins, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and RANKL. The proteins concentrated from the serum which try to enter the bone and control it are beta 2 microglobulin, especially from the kidney, insulin growth factor, transformation growth factor, platelet derived growth factor, as we have already seen above, interleukin, and RANKL. The mineral part is calcium hydroxyapatite is a major component occupying the entire bone. Okay, and other adjectives which are used for bone, which are the compact and spongy bone. The compact bone is a dense one, and a cortical bone. Spongy one are cancellous, membranous, endosteal, woven, lamellar, and specular. Okay, these are the types of bones used based on the part. Okay, here also you can see nicely this is a woven bone, which, but please remember two types of bones, which is woven bone and the lamellar bone. Woven bone is the immature bone lined by osteoblasts, and lamellar bone is a mature bone with a scattered osteocytes. Three basic types of skeletal infections. Today we are going to discuss little bit of osteomyelitis actually, which can be asked as a short note for you. Osteomyelitis, infection of the bone is called as osteomyelitis, bone as well as the marrow. Septic arthritis is infection of the joint. Mycetoma is a long, local, chronic and progressive infection of the skin, subcutaneous tissue and bone involved by actinomycosis. Osteomyelitis, that is suppurative osteomyelitis, is a purulent inflammation of the bone caused by many bacteria and occasionally by other microorganisms. The most common one involving is the Streptococcus species involving the long bones and the spine. Others are Enterobacteria and Bacteroides. Staphylococcus is also another. The number of systemic infections which spread to the bone are enteric fever, actinomycosis, mycetoma, syphilis, and brucellosis. Okay, so osteomyelitis is usually it is non-pyogenic, and what we have seen previously is pyogenic osteomyelitis, where dense collection of neutrophils. Here we find a mixed population of cells. In routine osteomyelitis, in chronic, we find mixed population that is containing lymphocytes, plasma cells, and chronic inflammatory infiltrate predominantly. Whereas in pyogenic osteomyelitis, that is what we have seen previously, we find neutrophils in predominantly in number. Neutrophils followed by macrophages. In non-pyogenic osteomyelitis, that is chronic osteomyelitis, we find osteomyelitis. We find tuberculosis as the major part, major modality which produces the infection, especially in India. Pyogenic or suppurative osteomyelitis is usually caused by bacterial infection and rarely by fungal. Then in developing countries, especially in like India, hematogenous route of infection, especially the long bones, do occur in infants as well as in young children. Direct extension from the adjacent soft tissue area, frequently involving the jaws and skull, is a more common modality of spread. Also, direct injury like penetrating injury during any traumatic and bullet injury or prosthetic after surgery, usually processes are being placed within the bone. Diabetic foot, these are the causes where injury because of foreign body do occur. Bacterial osteomyelitis may be a complication at all ages in patients with compound fractures, surgical procedures involving processes and implants, which chronically initially produce irritation followed superseded by infection, gangrene of the limb in diabetics, debilitation, and immunosuppression. This should have been kept in startingly, especially the parts of the long bone, epiphysis, metaphysis, and diaphysis. Actually, metaphysis is the part where the vascular supply is rich and it tries to supply both the way. Okay. Most of the osteomyelitis is hematogenous origin. The clinical picture varies with age, and the children through the age of puberty, long bones of the extremities are most commonly involved, with metaphysis as the initial site because of its increased vascularity. Thereby, blood-borne infection do start affect the metaphyseal region initially. In adults, hematogenous osteomyelitis most often affects the spinal part. The age-dependent preference for bone because of increased vascularity. In children, metaphysis, that is what we have already discussed. Metaphysis is very active metabolic tissue with large blood flow and vasculature, which predisposes to its infection also. Both predisposing to the infection as well as to the healing nature, in both increase with the increase in blood supply only. Phagocytic lining the capillaries in the region are deficient in number and function, thereby which they are less in number, it is prone to infection more. The nutrients arrive, the nutrient arteries near the epiphyseal cartilage are non-anastomosic, so it is less preferred. There is thereby any blockage to production, it produces tissue necrosis quickly there. Epiphyseal part, there is tissue necrosis more quickly because of non-branching vasculature present there. blockage of one vessel itself will produce necrosis to that organ, to that part. Clinically, in child, acute hematogenous osteomyelitis has a painful and tender limb. Patient presents with a painful tender limb associated with fever, malaise, leukocytosis, generally accompany the bony lesion. Persistence and negligence lead to chronic osteomyelitis, which is followed by amyloidosis. Radiological examination confirms the bony destruction. Okay, depending upon the duration of involvement, it can be acute, subacute, or chronic. And basing on the pathological changes, which basing on the type of inflammatory cell present there, you can find suppurative necrosis, suppurative inflammation, ischemic necrosis, followed by healing by fibrosis and bony repair. Okay, so the infection begins at the metaphyseal end of the marrow, which is largely occupied by pus. Microscopically, we see congestion, edema, and exudate of neutrophils. There is large tension within the marrow cavity, which is increased due to the pus and results in spread of infection to the endosteum, Haversian canals, Volkmann's canals, causing periostitis event. The infection may reach the subperiosteal space, forming subperiosteal abscess. It may penetrate through the cortex, creating the draining skin sinus tracts. Okay, a combination of the suppuration, impaired blood supply to the cortical bone results in erosion, thinning, and infarction, infarctive necrosis of the cortex, along with the periosteum. That is, if you just lift the periosteum, you find extensive necrosis of the underlying bone, resulting in a dead bone, which is a sequestrum. Clear? With passage of time, there forms a new bone beneath the periosteum, which present over the infected bone. This forms encasing sheath around the necrosing bone. The necrosing bone is being surrounded by the involucrum, which is a newly formed bone, but it is not at all like that of a previous bone. It will be more weak and you can just break it very easily. Clear? Long continued neosteogenesis give rise to dense sclerotic part of the osteomyelitis, which is called, if the osteomyelitis continues for a process for a period of time, the sclerotic part increases in time duration. This leads to chronic sclerosing, that is, the collagenous part increases in quantity and inflammatory part reduces, producing chronic sclerosing non-suppurative osteomyelitis of gut. Occasionally, acute osteomyelitis may be contained to a localized area and walled off. That is, walled off means it is surrounded by fibrous tissue and granulation tissue, which is termed as Brodie's abscess. It is within the bone, a suppurative collection composing of neutrophils, macrophages, surrounded by fibrous tissue and granulation tissue. In vertebral pyogenic osteomyelitis, infection begins from the disc, which is called discitis, and spreads to involve the vertebral bodies. You can see here nicely, this is the area of this is the area of infection where the bone is being eroded. Okay, clear? Followed by, this is the fibrotic part after being erosion and all. This are the later stages actually. This stage is followed by this stage. Here you can nicely see almost this is the actually this is a cavity which will be filled by inflammatory infiltrate surrounded by the granulation tissue, degenerating entire bone. I'm sorry, it is moving very quickly. You can see collection of degenerating neutrophils with here all over the bony fibrillary part and a background of necrosis. You can see nicely. This is all the lamellar bone, okay, with intervening the marrow even is completely filled with necrotic debris as well as suppurative inflammation associated with fibrillary necrosis. In clear, this is the neutrophil neatly in a almost nearby broken neutrophil. Okay, macrophage. This is the macrophage here in the background of fibrillary necrotic material. You can see here collection of neutrophils, and this is the degenerating bone. Even the degenerating bone entirely surrounded by inflammatory infiltrate. Almost this is the same picture. This is all the bony part with extension of the inflammatory infiltrate. What are the complications of osteomyelitis? This can be asked as a very short, which causes septicemia. Acute. The septicemia means the inflammation within the bone spreads to entire body, and most of the organs are involved with the same infection. The acute bacterial arthritis, that is infection of the bone spreading to the nearby joint. There can be a pathological fracture, as we have seen in the previous picture. Development of squamous cell carcinoma in a long-standing cases. There will be possibilities of squamous cell carcinoma when the bone tries to erode the overlying skin, and the chronic irritation produces infection first, followed by carcinoma. Secondary amyloidosis in long-standing cases, as we have discussed previously. Vertebral osteomyelitis may cause vertebral collapse with paravertebral abscess, epidural abscess, cord compression, and neurological defects. So coming to osteomyelitis, which can be of tuberculous origin, where here you're nicely seeing a Langhans type of giant cell. This is the bone with adjoining inflammatory infiltrate. You can see granulomatous inflammation comprising of lymphocytes, plasma cells, neutrophils, macrophages, giant cells of both Langhans type and foreign body type. Usually it is blood-borne. Okay, TB of spine is known as pot spine. Pot spine is mostly asked as a short note for you, or a very short. You need to write the granuloma. The patient can undergo both kyphosis or scoliosis of the spine. They present with kyphosis or scoliosis, after which you need to take a biopsy. And if it is of tuberculous, if we find tuberculous granuloma, patient will follow the treatment as per the guidelines. Then syphilis, infection of the syphilitic Treponema pallidum. It can be congenital, or it produces, tertiary syphilis produces Schaber shin, which is affecting the tibia mainly. You can nicely see a granuloma here, and this is the spine which I have undergone a bend. Okay, here you can see nicely a granuloma from which you need to take a biopsy and send us. Okay, this is Schaber shin. Nicely you can see how the shin has undergone its bend. This is the normal X-ray, and this is the abnormal. We have completed our class. This is just an introduction. Later on, we will follow the tumors and the other parts. Okay, clear? Thank you.